On May 14, 2018, the Supreme Court ruled the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act was unconstitutional. This allowed individual states to legalize and regulate sports betting within their jurisdictions. As a result, over the past 6 years, the sports betting market has surged. More states have made betting legal. Take a look at this image. Each state colored red offer legalized sports betting. And as each day passes, more and more bookmakers enter the betting market in the form of apps. Trust me, the bookmakers are not hurting financially. The market is thriving. Just look at a couple of these recent earnings reports. One would think this is great news for bettors, right? One would think. But that's what I'm going to discuss in this short video, how legalization has made the industry more corrupt and more predatory. Here's the problem. Corporate bigwigs have become more focused on building a client base of bettors with a losing track record rather than offering a fair game for all. As of 2024, a bettor with a winning track record has become enemy of the state. Every day, bettors like you and I are getting the boot more and more. Several cappers from my own camp have experienced being cut off and limited.
My name is Rick Stewart. You know, the issue I have with the betting now, the operators are just absolutely corrupt. You see, I deposited $3,000 and within a couple of days I lost it all. So of course I go deposit another $3,000. And again, over the course of the next 2 weeks, I ran the balance up to just over $40,000. My tactical choice, what I was doing to make this money was live wage. But I go to cash out on that $40,000, that's when the shenanigans again. So after a few hours of trying to cash out, I get an email notifying that my account had been put into review. So I wait a week, I hear nothing back. I send another email in. Same canned response. My account is being reviewed by their internal team. Another week has passed. Not a beep, not a word, not a response, not an email, not a text, not a nothing from this time. I send a follow-up email, but I also CC the Gaming Commission. The result, my funds were released the very next day. No reason, no apologies to release my funds and limited my account. All I did was use my brain, tools at my disposal that I had that anybody has access to. Felt like I was doing something illegal. It's just not right, but that's what they do.
This is Costi Safer. Man, gave me the runaround from the start. I deposited $14,000 and I played for a while. I had decent limits, and then all of a sudden, the more I started winning, they kept contradicting the wagers with limiting me or basically correcting my wagers as what they call countered. And I kept getting the lines, but obviously they countered with worse pricing on the actual betting slip. So I thought it's just a formality. I thought it's something that is pretty common. But what started happening more and more as the more I started winning is the limits became lower and lower and lower till eventually at the end my maximum wager was no more than $100. I did get the withdrawal from them for over $100K, but there's no reason why they shouldn't continue to take my money and continue to take my wagers at the limits that I wanted. It really made me think, do they really want people to win, or are they just in it to have recreational losers that can't beat them? I don't think it's fair.
Why? All because of having a competitive edge and winning. What's crazy, the average Joe and general public has little to no clue as to what's happening, the corruption or the war being wagered. But let's dial it back. It all starts with how bookmakers manage risk. As a bettor, you're placed into one of two categories based on your betting patterns and your results. You're either labeled a square or you're labeled a sharp. Squares are essentially losing bettors. Sharps, on the flip side, are bettors who tend to have a winning track record or their action is always on the right side, thus leveraging expected value or plus EV. Bookmakers despise sharp action and self-admittedly attempt to limit their exposure to it. Watch this short 15-second clip of David Portnoy.
We do these promos that are meant to give players great odds, but then there's a group of people who use those odds, can bet them both ways, multiple accounts, things of that nature that guarantee you win. Not illegal, theoretically.
Let's deep dive into what sharp action is. In simple terms, it's when bettors bet with the edge rather than relying on luck, ultimately taking back the quantitative edge from the house. Think of the table game blackjack. What do casinos fear? Card counters. Why? Because the player has a verifiable edge when the count in the shoe is high. High count favors the bettor. Low count favors the casino. Is counting cards illegal? No. Rather, this technique is frowned upon by casinos because when the count is right, the house no longer has the edge. It's well documented from all the movies and documentaries on card counters being trespassed, ran off, banned, and taken to the back room. Bookmakers are no different. These outfits go to extremes to keep their edge, and this goes from your local credit bookie around the corner to operators on the Las Vegas Strip to the most powerful betting apps on the market. The days of bookmakers trying to balance 50-50 on each side of a matchup are long gone. These days, bookies' financial endeavors go well beyond collecting the vig or the juice. You see, over the years, bookmakers evolved and realized it was more advantageous to their financials to prey on losers than to attempt to balance the action. These establishments invest in a small fortune into managing risk and attempt to avoid sharp action. The only action they want is square action. High-risk bettors who routinely bet heavy favorites, bet parlays, round robin, and other exotic bets, you know the guys looking to risk little and win big. Bookies love this action. Thus, these bettors are welcomed with open arms. Although bettors who are consistently beating the closing line, securing bets where there's value, beating the market, and capitalizing on market inefficiencies, the action is deemed sharp. Bettors like this are shunned because their type of action is bad for business. The number one goal of these risk assessment departments are to identify and limit bookmakers' exposure to this type of action. And this is where the shenanigans start. Let's cover it. First, let's talk credit bookies. These guys tend to be ruthless since they're not regulated by Gaming Commission authority. Credit bookies tend to resort to unethical extremes. One thing to note, most credit bookies rely on paper head accounts, or PPH for short. PPH platforms simplify bookmaking operations. It's easy to sign up players, offer odds, take bets, and do one-click accounting. These platforms make it easy for anyone to go from zero to becoming a credit-style bookie in 20 minutes. Here's just a few ways credit bookies tend to avoid sharp action. Without notice, credit bookies change the bettor's passwords or even delete betting accounts. Credit bookies will not honor bets after games go final on action and bets they deem sharp. Or the classic weasel dirtbag move bettors have complained about credit bookies ghosting them. I'm talking vanishing without a trace. Phone numbers go straight to voicemail, no response to text messages or WhatsApp. But the lowest of the low is reports of credit bookies deleting wins and keeping the losses, or worse, changing the odds after post. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Credit bookies are ruthless because, again, there's nobody regulating them. If you have a solid credit bookie, consider yourself lucky. You're probably thinking, no way the big dog sportsbooks and betting apps stoop to this level, right? Wrong. Although due to regulation, the bigwig operations tend to dance around sharp action much differently, their method of choice, limiting bettors' action by putting accounts under review. Specifically, once an account is labeled sharp, the betting action is limited to limits that are insulting and laughable. Imagine your max bet being limited to $1.50 per bet. Or worse, you hit a nice payday, you go to cash out, and your account is under review. There have been reports of bettors having their winnings seized, but your deposit is released, or worse, both your winnings and deposits are kept. For common folks like us, there's one word for action like this. It's called theft. But for these corrupt corporate rigs, it falls under terms of service. What happened to bookmakers offering a fair and balanced game for patrons? The bookmaking game has evolved into a predatory game of exploiting and preying on weak, uneducated bettors. In most industries, bait and switch tactics are considered corrupt. But in the betting industry, it's considered standard practice. In their marketing and branding, you see the celebrities touting these betting services, happy clients smiling and enjoying themselves. The bonuses are so lucrative, they defy financial logic and common sense. The goal is to reel you in, and if you're a loser, you're treated like a king and welcome to stick around. What if I told you there's a plot twist? A twist so extreme, it's like a hidden war being waged daily. In fact, very few bettors even know it's happening right under their nose. Rogue bettors, betting groups, syndicates who routinely smash and break the status quo when it comes to betting. Pictured as the black ops of betting. A society of gifted bettors who hide in the shadows because their strategies and tactics are considered unethical to bookies. Again, bookies are fearful. All because these specialized figured out how to beat the game and rake in a fortune doing so. This secret society routinely weaves their way through red tape, due to discrimination on being sharp. The results are millions in profit being won across small and big betting markets alike. Who are these sharps? How did they do it? Stay tuned for episode 2.